There are certain Falconry products and items that I just cannot live without and you must have. And in this video, I'm going to take you through 10 of my favourites. Working with birds of prey has been my career for over a decade, and you can't go that long without picking up a few tips and tricks along the way. But where do you even start with a list like this? There are so many tiny things I bet you wouldn't have even thought of. So I'm going to start with one of the main pieces of Falconry equipment, the glove. And make sure you check out the description for a list of all the places you can buy this stuff below. This glove cost me 30 quid, and I have 6 of them. Ew. Your glove is such an important piece of equipment. You'll wear it every single day, sometimes hours on end. It protects you from talons and those incredibly strong zip tie-like tendon toes. I cannot understand why anybody would skimp out and buy a cheap, poorly made glove. Now, like with everything, there is the good, the bad, and everything in between. If you cannot afford to spend a fortune on a glove, something like the one I've just thrown away will do the trick. It's still somewhat comfortable, and it's actually thermal lined, that one, so it keeps your hands nice and warm in the winter. The reason I have 6 of these gloves is because they're just perfect for my customers during experience sessions. But let me introduce you to the mother of all Falconry gloves. Trust me, once you try one of these gloves, you will never go back. These are my Chris Payne Falconry gloves, and they are hands down the most comfortable gloves I have ever worn in my life. I have a single thickness, this one here, for my smaller birds and the falcons. I have my double thickness here for Sway, the Eurasian eagle owl, and Peggy, the Harris hawk. And then I also have an eagle glove, which is 3 layers of leather for Lincoln and Hara. The amazing thing about these gloves is how soft and flexible the leather is. You see, it just flips over. And when you wear them for a while, they actually sort of mould to the shape of your hand, so it doesn't even feel like you're wearing a glove anymore. Whenever I buy one, I ask Chris to put these sort of eyelets in, so I can attach a set of bullet jesses, so I can take control of a bird whenever I need to, in all kinds of situations. So please check out Chris Payne and his gloves. Trust me, you will not regret it. Moving on to number 2. Next up, another very obvious one, but trust me, if you stick around, we'll get into my less obvious pieces of equipment and my personal favourite piece of Falconry equipment. Let's talk about bags. In Falconry, there's 2 different styles. There's bags and vests. Each has its own purpose. Personally, I've never managed to get along with a vest. Some people swear by them and can't live without one, but I'm not one of those people. I find them too bulky and in the way. Plus, who really needs that many pockets? Like, seriously, how much gear do you think you need to carry? This is my bag. I got it from a website called Westfield Falconry, and it's based off a Martin Jones design. I've used this bag every single day with every bird I've flown for the past 8 years, and I honestly don't know what I would do without it. It's just the right size for me to fit my food pouch, my crayons, my lure, and even some spare food. It's not overly large, so it doesn't get in my way. And another thing I love about this bag is these little leather flaps with an eyelet. It means I can safely secure my jesses in here while flying the birds, so I never have to wander around the field looking for a lost jess. It's also really easy to clean the whole thing. I did purchase these straps separately, also from Westfield, and we will be revisiting the strap later in the video. Of course, I've got a link to Westfield in the description. Please take a look. They have everything you could think of at excellent prices without compromising on quality. I often shop at Westfield, so if you do buy anything, make sure you leave a message letting them know that I sent you. Next up, number 3, let's talk footwear. Falconry in England is very often cold, wet and grey. I love the British countryside, but you have to be prepared for everything. And I could not live without a really good pair of boots. And these are the ones that I use because they are basically leather wellies. And it's like combining the support of a good pair of walking boots with the protection of a pair of wellies. So the best of both worlds, really. And they are so comfortable, I can wear them all day. I actually wore These pair for the whole 10-mile hike I did with Dave Sharp's Eagles, and they were comfortable the whole time while keeping my feet dry and warm. Now that the obvious ones are out of the way, let's really get into it. But first, with all the camera gear, the editing software and the time, I have put far more into this channel than it has ever earned me back. So, as the holidays are just round the corner, I've been working really hard on some really cool designs. If you have enjoyed my videos and you would like to see lots more while getting yourself something cool, some cool clothes to rub Falconry in everyone's faces, then please take a look at the new shop. You can either find it below this video or by going to this website here. I don't want to rinse my audience of all your hard-earned money, so I've purposely kept the profits as low as possible. I actually had to raise the prices because I originally got my maths wrong and had them set so low that the first few orders actually cost me money. So we've got 4 main collections, including the classic Mercer Falconry collection, which is what I'm currently wearing now. The Falconers collection with my personal favourite, You Tell a Male, but You Ask a Female. The Birdwatchers collection, including Great Tits. And the Owl Lovers collection, including Do I Look Like a Clucking Morning Person? There's something for everyone, and I'm going to be continuing to try making great designs, so go on, you deserve it. And so do I. Coming in at number 4, food prep. For the first half of my career, I used a knife to chop up and prepare the bird food. And then I found these scissors. And let me tell you, what a game changer. No longer do I have to travel around with a knife and a chopping board and then have a lot of washing up to do. I used to just use regular kitchen scissors, but then I stumbled across these, which are actually designed for preparing an entire chicken carcass. And to show you how great these are, I'm going to show you side by side the preparation of some food for flying sway, putting knife against scissors. They also easily go through quail bones, and as long as you know where the joints are, you can easily prepare a full rabbit carcass with them. Now for number 5. Next up, we're going medical. Now, obviously, I have to say that there isn't any kind of product I can tell you about that could ever replace a good avian vet in an emergency situation. However, for small cuts and grazes that occasionally occur with birds, I use this, which is F10 germicidal barrier ointment with an insecticide. If any of my birds ever get any kind of small lesion or a prick on the foot or a small cut somewhere, I just apply some of this and I know that it's going to be kept nice and clean and reduce the risk of infection whilst it heals. It always gives me peace of mind that the wound is being treated without always needing to pay an expensive vet bill. But again, this cannot replace your vet, and if you are concerned about anything, you need to contact your vet. It's good stuff, but it's not miracle cream. And just while we're on the sort of medical side, a newer practice for me is these 2 products. Where? There. These 2 products. I've always seemed to own a small tub of Avimix, but it's always been sort of ignored, and it's a dietary supplement containing vitamins and minerals that can easily just be sprinkled over the food, and I've recently started using it regularly, so I will have to check back in with another future video to see if I've noticed a change. And then similar to the AV Mix, there's this AV Pro, which is a soluble probiotic, and that can just be sprinkled into their bath water. Next up, number 6. I have the opinion that everyone who works with birds of prey or owns a bird of prey should have the skills and knowledge to be able to make their own furniture, like anklets and jesses. Even if you just buy them, I think that you should be able to make them yourself for emergency situations. And for that, you have to get yourself one of these. Now, I know it looks like just a ruler, but this isn't any old ruler. For a start, quite obviously, it's clear. And that makes such a huge difference. It has this little grid on it, meaning when I put it on top of the lever, I can still see everything that's going on. And it means that I can use the grid as a guide to make sure that every pair of jesses I cut are exactly the same as each other. And the other excellent feature of this ruler is along its edge. See, it has a metal plate all along the edge, meaning I can confidently run my scalpel along it to cut the lever, meaning every cut is a nice straight line without ever having the blade bite into the ruler and taking a chunk out of it, ruining that cut and every future cut. Seriously, if you make your own equipment, get yourself one of these rulers. Number 7, telemetry now, and I have 3 products to talk about with regarding telemetry, one of which is such a small change, but if you try it, I promise it will make flying your birds much easier. But first, this little gadget is a signal sensor. For years, this is the way I used to turn on my telemetry. And then I found this. It's kind of like a tiny receiver, and it's now the only way I turn on and off telemetry. Marshall quite handily now puts little LEDs on their transmitters, but I still need this for my micro transmitter. And it's also quite handy if you ever drop your transmitter somewhere. You can hold the button just as like a quick test to see if it's been dropped close by or if you're going to have to track it down with the receiver. Second is my tiny lock receiver. I have 3 Marshall radio transmitters and a Marshall GPS transmitter, but I don't use a Marshall receiver. And why is that? Because I think the features of this tiny lock are just so much better. So if you're unfamiliar with how telemetry works, just briefly, there are sort of 3 kind of levels of a signal. The main signal I work on is 434. Some people use 216 or 173, but I use 434. And then each transmitter has a specific frequency within that band. This one, for example, is 434.095, and that's easy enough to track. Once you just put those settings in, off you go. But that's not the whole story. There is another level, the fine tune, and this allows you to really get the most accurate signal. Now with the Marshall receiver, this is just a dial, the same as the volume that you have to spin until you think it's at the correct position. However, with the tiny lock system, it actually scans your transmitter and specifically finds the exact fine tune for you to always get the most accurate signal. Another thing I think is great about the tiny lock system is that you can actually save and label multiple transmitters, so you don't have to mess about with the settings. If you own more than one transmitter, you just select it on the screen and you're good to go. My third in the telemetry space isn't actually telemetry itself, but it's how you carry it. Let's take a look at my bag strap again. This strap came from Westfield Falconry, and it's a nice leather strap. It has some eyelets for jesses, and I use this little clip here for carrying hoods. But this bit was installed by me. So this is a tail mount for telemetry. Technically, it's supposed to crimp around the tail feather so that you can mount the telemetry. But if you put 2 small cuts in the strap, you can wiggle it in and then sort of crimp it from the back. So it's perfect for carrying telemetry. I never have to worry about carrying around a big telemetry box or go looking through things for telemetry. It just goes from my bag straight onto the bird, and then from the bird straight back onto my bag. And last but not least, number 10. And finally, I'm going to share with you my favourite piece of falconry equipment, but I just want to quickly highlight some of the places that you can get equipment from. Obviously Chris Payne for the gloves, but I also use Westfield Falconry, Forbes Falconry, Rallen Raptors, and Online Falconry Shop. All of these are great for a range of equipment at affordable prices. Just make sure you tell them that I sent you. Some of the other bits on the list, like the ruler and the scissors, came from Amazon, and my boots actually came from a UK shop called Go Outdoors. The Marshall stuff comes from Marshall's website, and my tiny lock system actually came from Graham Forbes at Forbes Falconry. And the very last one you have to check out is Silver Fox Falconry, because this is my lure, and this is my favourite piece of equipment that I own. If you fly falcons, and you only ever use some cheap lure handle and line off the typical equipment shops, then you do not realise what you are missing out on. I've had friends question why I need such a fancy lure handle and line and what's wrong with a cheap one, and honestly, when it's something I use for multiple birds every single day, having a really nice setup is really important for me. What actually makes it superior? Firstly, the line. The cheap lines I've used in the past have been rough and abrasive, and I don't have delicate little hands. My skin is basically leather at this point. But when you're swinging a line around every single day, a cheap line can really start to grate on you. So the lines that come from Mark at Silver Fox Falconry are unbelievably soft and comfortable compared to others that I have used. Right, now the handle itself, firstly, they look beautifully made. This one here is my main one, and this one is actually made from various parts of the International Centre for Birds of Prey in Gloucestershire. I also have one of Mima's gloves, which she actually signed to go with it. I don't know if you can see that. Mima's hands are smaller than mine. But functionality. They have a brass rod down the middle, and this makes them really quite heavy. They're about 300 grams. Now, the reason for this is because of how I like to fly my falcons. Falcons are specialised hunters at catching other birds from the air, and so at the end of their flight, I like to throw the lure pad up into the air for the falcon to bind to and bring down herself. The fastest I've recorded Sky flying at me was 96 miles per hour. If she starts flying that fast and I throw the lure up and her feet lock onto the pad and then keep hold of it, and I keep hold of the handle, she would very quickly hit the end of the lure line, and that's really not going to end well. Either the food would just tear off and she'll fly off with the food, or it would immediately stop Sky, putting way too much force on her legs and her hips. So instead, when I throw the lure pad up in the air, I actually throw the whole thing up in the air. With the handle being weighted, it prevents it from swinging up and hitting Sky when she grabs the lure pad, and it gently brings her down to the ground rather than having her randomly fly around with a piddly little thing like this dangling below her. It's got a beautiful design, it's comfortable, and it makes flying my falcons more natural and safe. If you fly falcons and you have not tried one of these, you are seriously missing out. So, from the very obvious bits like glove and bag, and the less obvious little sort of telemetry mounts and signal sensors, that is my list of falconry equipment that I cannot live without. So please check out our new Shopify shop. Unfortunately, it's too late to get things by Christmas, but I wanted to make sure I was really happy with the designs and products rather than just rushing something out for the holidays. Check out the list of suppliers in the description and tell them that I sent you. And for now, thank you for watching.